Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 63. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad you guys are back joining us for this Wednesday show, Steelers Nation. Dave, what planet is TJ Watt from? Apparently not from Earth. Where do you think he's hailing from?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I thought Mike Tomlin did a great job, answering kind of, an obvious question or something that you would expect a kind of a more obvious response from. Basically, talk about the season that TJ Watt has had, and is he worthy of Defensive Player of the Year? And Tomlin hit it on the head. He says TJ is visiting from another planet, to be quite honest with you. He was freakishly unique talent. No, he has freakishly unique talent coupled with freakishly unique work habits and mindset, and it produces what you guys witness every week, which in my opinion is Defensive Player of the Year quality. And but that guy's such a wordsmith, isn't he? I use freakishly twice in a sentence there, and it's appropriate too when you talk about a guy like TJ Watt. So obviously that won't be decided until like NFL honors, right?
Right before the Super Bowl.
But 1 week left in the season here, and I think you and I kind of hit on it the other day. Does he need to play in this game, against the Browns, or have a big game to secure this? And look, even if he does sit, we'll be talking a little bit about who may or may not sit in this finale for the Steelers as this show goes on. But personally, I think he's done enough at this point. You look, not only look at the stats, look at the tape that goes along with it, the tackles for loss, the sacks, how he got those sacks. We talked for several years now about sacks needing to be graded and redefined, and quality sacks. And you just look at the tape, you turn the all 22 on him, and how teams have to treat him with double teams and stuff like that. And we cover the Steelers. We're pro Steelers, obviously, but even just from a fan aspect, I don't think you can look at his play and say, man, this guy doesn't deserve to be Defensive Player of the Year. And with that, good morning. How are you?
Doing well, and I agree with yours and Mike Tomlin's endorsement of TJ Watt for Defensive Player of the Year. We'll find out in just over a month or so, but he has my vote, and I'm guessing the vote of most of Steelers Nations, if not all of Steelers Nation. Obviously, we'll talk about some of the things Tomlin said in terms of guys that will not play against the Browns. We know one, Big Ben, will not play against Cleveland. Mason Rudolph will get to start, but before we get into that conversation, I do want to do a bit of housekeeping like we try to do at the start of every single show. Steelers made several roster moves yesterday. They placed offensive tackle Jerron Jones on the practice squad injured list. They signed a couple of guys back. They signed tackle John LeGlue to the practice squad. Also, Christian Kuntz, the long snapper / outside linebacker, was signed to the practice squad. Duran Gray has been claimed on waivers by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So good call, Dave. Talked about that on Monday's show about the potential of him getting claimed as we are at the end of the season by the Jags, who will have likely to have the first overall pick in 2021, so they're having an eye towards the offseason. And is there any other roster moves that I am missing? Fill me in if I am.
I don't think
that was everything.
Yeah, I think you got all of them over there. Obviously, had the elevation of Matthew Wright, the kicker, and he has since reverted back to the practice squad after the game this past week, and also that was an obvious one. And then the team named their 4 protected practice squad players this week, and help me out there. That was
Deon Cain, Wendell Smallwood, Anthony Coyle, and Matthew Wright.
Right, no surprises there really to go into the end of the regular season with here on that. Look, Duran Gray, you hate to lose it, right? And people are saying, boy, the Steelers really messed that one up there and let him get away just like they did Stefan Wisniewski, early in the season. I wasn't and I know you weren't either. You weren't heartbroken about Stefan Wisniewski, right? early in the season?
Still not heartbroken.
I mean, we watched him play for the Colts, a few weeks ago, and I thought, it was very meh, So definitely not upset over that. Derwin Gray, look, we had our own Tyler Wise break down his steps there in that game against the Bengals there, and he put some good things down on tape there. And people say, well, why, who else, couldn't you have cut anybody else? And I guess that's where you start, is could they have cut anybody else to make room for, who was it? T. Gray Scales, right? I mean, they had to get the linebacker on the roster, and T. Gray Scales, you couldn't do the elevation on him because he was out of elevations, so you had to sign him outright from the practice squad there. So you needed the roster spot, and people say, well, just throw somebody on IR. You can't do that without getting a grievance, People just think that that's just a place that you store players when you need a roster spot. It's not. As we've talked about several times over the years, who else would you have cut?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, there's implications if you cut anybody. I might have gone with a Jay Elliott type. I understand that would have left you with only 3 healthy, active outside linebackers because Ola was not available for this game, but I would have rather cut a guy like Elliott than Derwin Gray. I'm not going to make this more than it is. I mean, it's not like Gray's going to be the next, Hall of Fame Alan Faneca type guard, but I was impressed by him against the Bengals. And I think, he was a guy that was converting from tackle, learning how to play guard, and he kind of showed some of the signs. It reminded me of Ramon Foster when he came out. When they drafted him, I said he kind of reminds me of another Ramon Foster type, because Foster was a tackle at Tennessee, like Gray was at Maryland. But it's just a combination of last year you lose Fred Johnson, the same situation, claimed by the Bengals. You see he's playing for them right now. You lose Gray. Offensive line talent is so scarce in today's NFL. If you can hold on to it, you need to. And knowing this offensive line is getting older, likely to lose some pieces in the offseason, with Villanueva, Filer, set to be free agents. Not that Gray's going to replace Villanueva, obviously, but you just want to store as much O-line talent as possible. And to lose Gray is a bummer.
Yeah, it is, and we'll see how it plays out for him now in Jacksonville there. So, I mean, it would have had to been somebody that was probably going to be inactive this past week, right?
Well, who was inactive? I don't know if anyone on that list would have qualified because there were injuries and.
Right. I mean, J-Ron was one of those guys, right?
Well, Elliott was active. He was active.
Well, wait. No, I'm sorry, not J-Ron. I'm thinking about Ola was the other one.
Yeah, Ola was down with his injury.
Was down with his injury. Marcus Allen was inactive. Obviously, Boswell was inactive. Joshua Dobbs was inactive. Antoine Brooks Jr. I think was inactive, wasn't he? And then Anthony McFarland there. So you had been one short at the outside. You would have played the game with 3 outside linebackers, right? With Cassius Marsh being one of them, being a new guy in there. I mean, their hands were kind of tied. Unless Danny Isidora, I guess you could have kept Gray and cut Danny Isidora. But once again, we were, as we talked on the show, you're paying him and got to get into the minutia of could they have done that? I'm sure they could have. I don't know. Maybe Danny locks up a roster spot and you couldn't have cut him.
Right. I thought there was something that said that you have to pay him for sure, even if you cut him. But then, even if you cut him, he still holds that roster spot.
Right, and that would make sense because they want to, keep the
coaching to a minimum.
Right. The competitive balance, aspect of it intact, and you not just claim a guy that you're about to play off another team's practice squad, use him for a week and then turn him loose. There's got to be a penalty for that, and the penalty is indeed the roster spot there. So you couldn't have done that. So it's just unfortunate. There are a lot of people that have more heartburn about this than what I thought would have on it. And I mean, I get it. I mean, you hate to lose talented offensive linemen, and especially ones that you drafted, but such is life.
Yeah, we'll move on, and who knows? Maybe he can circle back next year if he gets cut in the training camp. You never know what could happen in that scenario. So maybe not the end of Derwin Gray in Pittsburgh. But moving on now to Mike Tomlin and his press conference yesterday. And, of course, the big news there is that he announced that Ben Roethlisberger will not play in the Week 17 regular season finale against the Cleveland Browns. Tomlin also left the door open for other players to potentially sit, although he did not get specific, and said it was largely dependent on positional health. So for outside linebacker, for example, TJ Watt, may or may not play. It could be dependent on guys like Ola and if they're available and things like that. So my strong guess is other players will sit, maybe dress but not play. That could include Marquise Pouncey, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt. Dave, I know you tweeted something yesterday that kind of had a good outline of guys that you would sit. That makes a lot of sense in terms of just sitting the key guys for this one.
Yeah, Roethlisberger's a no-brainer, right? I mean, you got to you got to sit him. Usually, and got to be dangerous with that this time around. Usually, Pouncey sits when Roethlisberger sits, and you would think that that's going to be the case this time. However, who's going to play center for you? J.C. Hassenauer, right? And then who is your backup center? Not that we should probably be. Look, you can't live in your fears, I guess. But what happens if who is your backup center? I'm guessing it would probably be Kevin Dotson, right?
That's the only guy that I'm aware of that's taken any sort of snaps at center. Matt Filer probably would be, but of course Filer not going to play in this game. I think your backup center is punt on first down. If you lose your center, you just punt every single time. Maybe they call somebody up. I don't know. I'm not even sure if anyone on the practice squad has center flexibility, but probably Dotson and Hassenauer, of course, would start in that scenario.
Well, LeGlue evidently has played up and down all over the place. And even has a snap or two at center. Not obviously not in the NFL, but I think in college he did play some there. But I'm trying to look at who else we have on the practice squad right now.
Not Coyle, not Walton. Those were tackles. So it could be LeGlue. Yeah, I mean, it would be maybe in that scenario.
But that's a lot to ask him to come along that quick, right?
Do you want to play in the NFL or not, John LeGlue? It's not good circumstances, but here's your shot, my man.
We'll see. We'll see how the rest of the week plays out as far as that goes. So, do you dress Pouncey just in? I mean, you don't have to play him, but I guess you could dress him. But do you even want him in that game to risk it?
Right. I wouldn't play Pouncey at all. I'd rather figure out a plan B and deal with that than risk Pouncey.
And I bet Roethlisberger is going to say, "Look, I sit, he sits," kind of thing. All right, the other ones on that list. There's no reason to play Cameron Hayward in this one, right?
None at all. You have enough depth to rotate guys in. You can get Isaiah Buggs active. Hayward's played so much this year. You got to sit Hayward. So that's the second guy I said. Even before Pouncey, I said you got to sit Cam Hayward.
All right. Joe Hayden. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever to put Joe Hayden out there.
Agreed. Again, you have depth with Justin Lane, James Pierre. Hayden's a good guy to sit.
Where would you like to go from there? Now you get into Mike Tomlin talking about shorter lines and health of people and all like that. And this is a big if Ola Adeni is recovered from this shoulder injury of his that kept him out, you have 4 outside linebackers. You usually only dress about 4 of them. I would seriously consider not playing TJ Watt in this game.
I'm with you. As much as I would love for him to get another sack to tie James Harrison's record, maybe stat pad a bit for Defensive Player of the Year honors. Obviously, the goal is much bigger. The goal is to win a Super Bowl, get ready for the postseason. So maybe, but if you dress him, then would you dress 5 or would you dress 4? And if you only dress 4, including Watt, then if he doesn't play much, then you're down to just 3. Yeah, I think push comes to shove. If Ola can play, then you sit TJ Watt.
Let's see. Who else do we have potentially sitting?
I mean, you could potentially even sit Tuitt if you wanted to.
I thought so, and I put together a list of the 5 guys that you could dress in his place, and I forgot all about Wormley. I had to correct the tweet there because I had him calling up Calvin Taylor. I just got sidetracked there, but I mean, they usually only dress five defensive linemen anyway, right?
Yeah, right. So you can get away with it by having Bugs come up warmly, and you could even call up, I think you mentioned, a Calvin Taylor if you really wanted to, just as extra insurance.
Right. So you address Tyson Alualu, Isaiah Buggs, Henry Mondo, Carlos Davis, and Chris Wormley. That's 5 right there. And if you felt like you absolutely had to have the extra body, I mean, it would make sense to go ahead and use one of make sure you got the elevations done this week and did the 2 allotted, even if they are 2 that maybe are kind of off the radar a little bit because you don't want to use up a guy that you might need to elevate again, right? for whatever reason, and doesn't necessarily mean you have to play the person anyway.
Right. And you mentioned James Conner, which I think makes a lot of sense. Sit Conner, get McFarland up, 3 running backs, all you need. So you can sit 1 running back, and Conner would be the most logical guy in the backfield to sit out.
Right. Look, I mean, you're not going to dress. Why not get Anthony McFarland some work in this game?
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I mean, he's not played a ton this year. Obviously, been inactive when the backfield's been healthy. A good chance to really get a longer look at him. I'm all for it. What about any receiver? I know you start running out of inactive spots, but a Juju. I mean, you have depth here. You could call up a Deion Kane if you wanted to get him some work. So you could probably sit a receiver.
I would dress them all, and be kind of judicious about playing time. I think.
Okay, that's fair.
On that, I mean, who are the 2 that you're going to that you would elevate? I guess you could go. But Kane's out of elevations, isn't he, or no?
Is he? Does he not have one?
I don't remember how many times he's been elevated here.
At least one, because he played in week 6. I remember that. Did he get elevated?
I don't remember, and that's something you have to unfortunately kind of look at when you get into this minutia part of it as well too. Let's see, I'm not seeing anything on the transactions sheet here. We'll have to search the site here. I know they
elevated in mid-October, so that was one.
That was it,
might
right?
Be the only one. I think that was the only one.
All right.
Just my quick glance here of searching Kane on Steelers Depot. I'm not. I could be wrong, but I'm only seeing one elevation this year.
All right. Well, you could potentially do that if you felt the need to go that way. But I mean, you could probably go with four wide receivers as well too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure they're going to elevate at least 2.
Yeah,
or the maximum.
Take advantage
2.
of.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Anybody else you would sit down?
I think that's about it. Obviously, those guys I'd like to sit, DeCastro, Villanueva, guys like that, but it becomes a numbers game where you just can't sit everybody. This is not a preseason game where you have a 90-man roster to work with. You have a limited roster spots here. So I think that's kind of the bulk of the list.
You have to dress 8 offensive linemen too in order to dress 48. So that's another thing that's part of the minutia that you gotta worry about there as part of this all. All right. I mean, look, we'll find out. And look, we don't even know who might be out injured in this game, but it sounds pretty good, at least from what Mike Tomlin said on Tuesday during his press conference. It sounds like Chris Boswell will be able to be back this week, and his injuries have been 2 separate injuries, right? That's the way Mike Tomlin described it, the hip and the groin there. So hopefully he's recovered from that there and can obviously kick against the Browns on Sunday. And
if he can't though, what happens? Because Wright's out of elevations,
right?
So you would have to call him up to the 53. So that's a roster spot. You're carrying 2 kickers if Boswell cannot play.
Correct, unless you brought up Corliss Waitman and said, "Have at it."
You're really going 4th preseason game.
He can place kick, right?
Right. He did, yeah, for sure. I mean, you could in theory, but it'd be interesting. So hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully Boswell can kick, but if he can't, or if they want to be cautious with him, or if he tweaks something on Saturday, just something else to consider.
I mean, let's face it though. You know what I would do? I would seriously consider this if I didn't need if I had the spot if I had the elevation and I didn't need one of those other like a Taylor to be promoted. Here's what I would do. I would elevate Corliss Waitman, and I'd let him handle all the kicking duties, and then obviously let somebody hold for him. It'd have to be Barry or something like that, the normal holder. But I would let him both punt and place kick, or handle all the kicking duties, just to see what he could do. What do you have to lose there?
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Or you could even go crazier and just say let's have a kicker. We'll deal with kickoffs. We're not kicking field goals or extra points. I mean that gets really kind of zany, but I guess you could work around it. I
mean, the guy can't place kick. I mean, I would give him the opportunity to at least treat him and let him punt and place kick and do all of it.
Right, especially if it means not having to cut somebody to bring up a Matthew Wright.
Yeah, I would consider that. Now that's if you didn't have to have like I said, a Calvin Taylor or an extra offensive lineman, we'll see. But I would seriously consider that, and especially if you thought there was anything to Waitman, which we don't know what their thoughts on him are, right? Because let's face it, Matthew Wright is not going to compete for a place kicking job in the NFL, right?
Right. I mean, I don't know if Waitman will either, but
right. Well, we don't know. We haven't seen him,
Yeah, sure.
But anyway, all right. We spent 15 minutes on that.
You're welcome. Right, so go ahead.
I said you're welcome.
Rest of Mike Tomlin's press conference. I mean, obviously, people were asking if Mason Rudolph's excited to play. Like, yeah, I'm sure Mason Rudolph is excited to play. Obviously, we're now getting the whole Mason Rudolph versus Myles Garrett storyline that'll probably get talked about 47 times on ESPN before kickoff.
You got to give him a fair shake in this, though, and you're already starting off and not this goes back to us talking about the wide receivers and all, right? And what was kind of the line that he used about Mason Rudolph? It won't be graded on a curve or something?
Mm-hmm. Right. That's the phrase he used.
Right. I mean, I'm okay with saying that for sure. But don't throw him out there with. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You're already going to throw him out there likely without Pouncey, so you're going to handicap him that way. You're probably already going to even if James Conner plays, he's not going to play a lot in this game. You're already probably going. I mean. Not that they were going to add anything new offensively on tape in this game for the Browns, but you're probably going to dumb it down even dumber than it's been, offensively here. So, and if you take away any of his wide receivers from him, Juju or any of those starters, I mean, it's not a fair shake you're giving the kid, right?
Well, I mean, it's not always about fairness. It's just about what has to be done. And He's still got more talent this year than he had last year he was throwing to, and he's just his own growth and development. Like, obviously, you have to understand the caveat to that, but you can still expect him to play reasonably because he'll still be throwing. I mean, you still have Chase Claypool, Washington. Your tight ends are going to play. I mean, there won't be that many key guys missing. A couple, obviously, but it's not like, again, this is not fourth preseason territory.
You mean there won't be any Tevin Jones or
God, who were some of the guys last year?
Johnny Holton.
Tony Brooks. Yeah, Johnny Holton, Tony Brooks Jr. hand the ball off. Oh, I'm getting some flashbacks here.
You look back after the fact. It's like you mentioned the other day that sent me back in time. Talking about the last time the Steelers played the AFC Championship game against the Patriots, right? And you go back and you remember who was in the starting lineup. For that game, the Kobe Hamiltons and the Le'Veon Bell left that game 10 snaps in.
Sammy Coates and those guys. Yeah, you posted the Kobe Hamilton clip of the Week 17 game. That was some flashbacks. Good find there. Good barn find.
So yeah, look, I mean, this is Mason's Super Bowl, man. Period. Yeah. I mean, there is a lot riding on this game for this kid, and we talked about it early in the season that hopefully we don't have to see Mason Rudolph play any meaningful snaps until maybe the regular season finale, and that when we do, any playing time that he gets is going to be extremely important because you really, really got, after all he went, you got to see what he did last year for a good half of the season. You got to see him then go through trials and tribulations, if you will. Obviously the Browns game and the mess that all happened in that game. And then you say, okay, well, how's this kid going to bounce back against the Bengals the next week? Well, he got bounced. It was no bounce back to it. He's yanked right after halftime, and then because of the way they're winning, blah blah blah. Duck stayed in there. Devlin Hodges stayed in there until he got injured in the Jets game. You saw little things to get excited about in a few snaps that Mason Rudolph played against the Jets, and then down injured he goes again. So, and then so far this season he's thrown 4 passes, handed the ball off 11 times, and's got 6 kneel downs. So obviously nothing really to evaluate there. This is, you got to find out as much as you can about who he is to some degree in this game. And look, he's got every motivation in the world right now. This is a big stage for him because a lot of people will be watching too because the whole Myles Garrett thing on top of it there. So I mean, this is an extremely big game for him, and You know, I understand Mike Tomlin saying graded on the curve, but at least put him out there with something. You know.
Yeah, well, he'll have something, and yeah, but I agree with everything you said. I mean, this is a big thing for him. This could, in theory, be his last start with the Steelers. I mean, this could be the last opportunity he really gets, and so he's got to make the most of it and show that he's really made progress from a very difficult 2019 to this year. So he doesn't have to be perfect or amazing or throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, but he's got to show progression. Get the ball out of his hand quicker, be able to take some shots downfield selectively, more accuracy, just better decision making overall, taking care of the football, stuff like that. Stuff he just didn't show. Pocket presence was abysmal last season. So huge opportunity and a huge test here for Mason Rudolph.
What's the narrative if the Steelers lose this game? Which I mean, they're 10-point underdogs right now for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, because I mean they're sitting guys, and Browns have everything to play for here.
Right. Okay. What's the narrative coming out of this? If they lose, but they scored 26, 27 points, Mason looks maybe not like he's going to go to the Pro Bowl, but no interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 220 yards. Grades out fairly well across the board. What's the narrative on him specifically coming out of this game?
I don't think
one thing it can't be is it can't be bad. I mean, if it's bad, then that's it, right?
Yeah,
making bad decisions, couple interceptions.
Even if it's a satisfactory performance, I don't know if the narrative changes too much in the hearts and minds of most Steelers fans. I think they kind of just have their feeling on Mason that he's not the guy. And I think even if he plays okay, it's not going to convince the Steelers that he is the guy or the future or anything either. So, I mean, unless it's really, really good, I don't think it changes people's opinions too much.
So does he, in other words, you're saying he really doesn't have much to gain? He has everything to lose? Is that?
Well, I mean, from a fan base standpoint, I guess. I think from an internal team standpoint, a little less so, just in terms of the confidence of him being a capable backup for next season, at least. If he falls flat, then maybe you have a conversation about maybe doing something there. But, yeah, I think there's more to lose than to gain here, but I don't want to say there's nothing to gain because there absolutely are things to gain.
How do you feel like the team leave the fans out of this now? Leave you and me out of this now.
Okay.
How do you think that? Do you think that the team knows enough about him now at this point that even or is this upcoming game pretty important to them?
Well, I'm sure they obviously have a better gauge of where he's at because they've seen him in practice and training camp every single day. So I would imagine what he does Sunday isn't going to be a major shock to them, good or bad, because they kind of have a feel of where he's at and how much he's progressed or if he has progressed since last season. But obviously when you get into a stadium, you want to see it, the application of it. So there is certainly some importance to it because this is his first start since last year, and you want to kind of really be able to gauge that and measure that progress. So yeah, it's not. I don't know how to phrase it. It's an important game. Obviously, it's an opportunity for him to start and play in the NFL. That makes it important.
What are you most looking forward to seeing out of him?
I think just overall pocket presence. I mean, that was such the big sore spot for him and for Duck Hodges last year. Just really struggling in the pocket with pressure. Bailing out of clean pockets, taking sacks that were on them, stuff like that. So just take care of the football, make it profit, show good pocket presence. Hit a splash play or two, and if you do that, then it's a pretty good game.
Do you think we'll see a quick passing game out of him?
Yeah, it's interesting. I know some people said, are they going to carry the same offense with Ben as they do with Rudolph? I don't think you'll see it one-to-one. I think you'll see some more deeper developing routes and some more vertical shots. I don't think it's going to be this no-huddle, go offense that obviously really only Ben can run. So if anything, just because you are unlikely to run that type of tempo and no-huddle with Rudolph like you do Ben, you probably just naturally see less of the quick game because of that.
I'd like to see him take some shots, man. If I'm him, I'm letting it all hang out, man. Every last bit of it. I want to show I can push the football down the field, on target and all like that. Because look, we've talked about it several times. I think you discount it probably a little bit more. But man, what if he hits a couple of those shots in that game last year against the Browns? That specifically, I think, to Holton, right?
Holton, yeah. I mean there were
how does the space time continue? You never were. You haven't watched the Back to the Future saga, have you?
No. I mean, I get the reference, but have not seen it.
That's another thing you got to sit down for an afternoon. They get worse as they go along, 1, 2, and 3, but it is part of kind of pop culture, if you will. But how does the space-time continuum change if he hits a couple of those throws in that Browns game, specifically that one to Holton? Holton, I think, should have had in the end zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it changes how much, who's to say, but yeah, I mean, if you hit big plays, it can change the course of the game, change the course of a season.
Why do you think a good portion of the fan base just they seem to hate the kid, man? Really, they seem to just hate him.
Yeah, usually the backup quarterback's the most popular guy, but not so in Pittsburgh.
Right now, Joshua Dobbs could probably run for mayor.
Probably could. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Obviously, Rudolph didn't play that great last year, so that creates a lot of criticism whenever you're just not playing well. I guess it's really just that. If he plays well, people love you. If you play if you don't play well, then you get criticized and you don't get liked too much.
I don't know. The more we talk about him and all in this upcoming game, I've got a feeling that he has. Just from an exterior outlook, that he's got more to lose than he does to gain.
I mean, that's probably fair overall, but there are certainly things to gain, and maybe he surprises has a really good game. I mean, who knows? We'll just have to see.
All right. What else about this upcoming game?
From Tomlin?
Yeah.
I think for me, also he mentioned about Robert Spillane, about his potential return, said we'll see on that. Spillane is eligible to have that window open to play this week. Don't know if he will or not. I think if he does.
We'll find out any moment now, right? Because they would have they'd have to activate him and open his window right now for him to practice today.
That's true. That's a good point. So if he does, then I might just do some sort of big 3-man rotation of Avery Williamson and Vince Williams and Spillane, just kind of rotate all those guys to keep him fresh and get him some reps. But we'll see on Spillane. Maybe by the end of the show, we'll kind of have a feel or not whether he'll be that window will open this week.
The way he answered the question, I didn't get a warm, fuzzy feeling that we'll see Robert Spillane back this week. And then if he, if he if he doesn't resume practicing this week and he does next week, has he been off? You know what I'm saying? Is it rushing him along too quick?
Well, it just depends. I mean, does he go back to full-time status whenever he returns? Does he split with Williamson? Do you have some sort of 3-man rotation working throughout? Don't know for sure how that'll go. But, you're right. Tomlin's answer was, I haven't talked to the trainers yet. And usually that's usually not a great answer and not a great sign for his availability.
All right. Go ahead.
Tomlin did have, I think, the worst answer he gave in the press conference was his explanation about why he did not call a timeout at the end of the first half of the Colts game, and I was happy someone asked the question. Let me read Tomlin's answer here, and I'll get your evaluation of whether or not it's a good answer or not, Dave. Tomlin says, quote, I was taken aback by the screen we just gave up prior to that, and I was more concerned about getting that unit off the field without giving up any more splash plays. It's really unsettling when you give up a field flipping play such as that. He goes on to say our execution was poor, and it really kind of changed my whole mentality about how the end of the half was unfolding. So Tomlin spooked by that big 63-yard screen by Nyheim Hines that was called back on penalty, and so that did not make Tomlin comfortable in calling a timeout that would have forced a 3rd and 18. Do you buy it or not?
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, I think it's a really bad answer. Some people seem okay with it, but I think that's some results bias stuff, to steal your term. Just say you screwed up. I mean, that's fine. You screw up, it happens, but it's just a really bad decision to not call timeout there.
Yeah, just say you got caught up in what Phillip Rivers fooled the living crap out of you, and you were a spectator at that point and not coaching, and that's what it felt like. Man, Tony Romo was narrating it the whole way through too, you know, and you keep saying, well, are they going to go hurry up here? Oh, wait, do I really want to stop the clock and give them time to that? To me, that's not showing a lot of confidence in in your defense, which Tomlin usually is out there in the forefront saying, I trust my defense to, I'm going to stop the clock because I know they're going to get me the ball back, yada, yada, yada. And even if it's on the heels of that screenplay there, you got to think, well, we dodged the bullet there. My guys will get the ball back here now, that kind of thing. So, yeah, very do better there. Just say, man, I messed up, man. And
right.
Phillip Rivers got me, you know?
Yeah, it's 3rd and 18. The Steelers have not allowed a 3rd and 18 plus conversion the entire year. Opposing offenses are 0 for 17. That's actually the best mark in football. And you would get to call a timeout, and if you need to tell your defense, watch out for the screen or go over what happened on that screenplay quickly, you could. And to the last point, because some people pushed back on this and said, well, the offense was terrible, and that's why Tomlin didn't want to, let the clock stop the clock because the offense was bad. If that's true, then why did Tomlin still throw the football when they did get the ball back with 13 seconds left? Obviously, he planned to be aggressive there. So you want to be aggressive with 13 seconds left, or do you want to be aggressive with 55 seconds left? I know which one I'm taking. So it's not like Tomlin just sat on the football at the end of the first half. If he was really that scared about the poor offensive performance, he would have just knelt on the football and gone to halftime. But he went for it. They wanted to pick up yards and try to get points, and they just did it with a lot less time than they should have.
Right. Didn't even give him a shot to throw a Hail Mary or something,
Right. So, anyway, I thought that was a really bad answer from Tomlin, but that was probably about it from him from the presser. Anything else I'm missing that you wanted to go?
Talk about offensive coordinator Ben Roethlisberger, if you will, and talk about comments made by Juju, Michael Silver, and the Colts defensive coordinator. I would like to abstain from all this myself.
No.
People, I get a lot of nasty emails saying that they don't want me talking about the offensive coordinator anymore. So I'm going to refrain from giving an opinion on this. I want you to wrap your opinion around all this.
Okay. Well, might be a one-sided conversation. Just the whole Michael Silver's commentary was that, Ben was running the show in the second half and calling his own plays and doing a lot of backyard stuff. And, that apparently came in some form or fashion from Juju, but we never found Juju's exact quotes on that either. So, I don't know exactly what the context is or what Silver might have taken out of context or interpreted or whatever the case is. Eric Ebron said, all that stuff's overblown and that's all stuff we practiced and things like that. Mike Tomlin had said that was asked about, the Ben calling plays and stuff like that. And in the first half, the Colts defense was calling out the Steelers plays. And Tomlin said, well, the Steelers defense was doing the same to the Colts offense, that in a situation where you can hear everything, there are no fans, as was the case at Heinz Field.
Let me read that. Let me provide the proper context so we don't get accused of wrangling all this up here, right? I want people to have the full context. Mike Tomlin was asked, Juju Smith-Schuster said the Colts were calling out your plays in the first half, and Ben Roethlisberger made it up as he went along in the second. Did either of those things occur? That's via Mike Pizzuta of DVE. Tomlin's answer, and this is from the team transcript that they provided us. We were calling out their plays too. Phillip Rivers was calling out our adjustments. I think it is one of the things that goes on in 2020 during the global pandemic when you're playing in crickets in eerily quiet stadiums. I know other teams have talked about that some. I think it is just one of the adjustable things that we all globally have to deal with in the 2020 environment because of the level of communication and the amount of communication that's heard between units prior to a snap in 2020's environment. All right, go ahead.
All right. And so, that was Tomlin's response to that. And then the Colts defensive coordinator was asked about that Silver report about Ben running the show in the second half. And his comment was, no, he didn't believe that. There's a train coming, so I apologize as I read this off. The Colts DC goes on to say, quote, I mean, we've played these guys a lot over the last few years, even with the team I was at, so I didn't see any looks that were new. I did hear that report that he was calling his own plays, and I didn't notice anything. The guys on the field didn't say anything or notice anything after the game, so it was pretty much who they were. And to me, Dave, I really didn't see any difference. I mean, they went a little bit more tempo, a little bit more no huddle, but I gave the comparison in the article that, Deontay Johnson's touchdown was a very similar play call as they ran in the first half that fell incomplete, but Johnson didn't run the route correctly the way that Ben wanted it, and so they kind of corrected that at halftime. So to me, it really wasn't that the play calls were different. In that case, it really wasn't different at all. It was just simply the execution was obviously much better.
And then you look at the big play to Chase Claypool in NCAA Mills concept, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Where you have the the dig route underneath the post, and then underneath that you have the intermediate crosser from left to right there, and you can turn on the all 22 and you can watch Ben just go right through the progression on that, right, from low to high, right? I mean, is that drawing plays up in the sand? I mean, that we've seen them run that Mills concept a bunch.
Sure, yeah, pretty staple concept in the NFL. So, I obviously have my critiques of Fietner, and I wrote in the article that I talk about the opening game script and how poor that has been and how that has to improve upon. But I'm not seeing anything in the comments from other players, from coaches, from Tomlin, from the Colts side of things that there was this that would give credence to Silver's report about Ben running the show in the second half.
Okay, I mean, where do you come in on all this right now?
I mean, I think it's a lot of noise, to be honest, and then Silver follows that up with this story about Ben not going to help Mason Rudolph, and that just seems like a hacky thing for clicks and to stir the pot a little bit. So I think that hurts Silver's credibility all the more because clearly there's an angle that's being worked here.
They everybody make sure to quote Michael Silver on the comments and they give a lot of credence and prop Michael Silver up for the Juju comments. And then less than 24 hours later, when Michael Silver talks about how Mason Rudolph's not likely to get any help from Ben Roethlisberger this week, then all we get is Michael Silver's a hack.
Yeah, I've been blocked by Michael Silver for years, so I don't even see half of this stuff until like a little bit after the fact. But I think clearly there's just an opportunity to try to create division in every single report, whether that's Ben versus the OC or Ben versus Rudolph, always trying to make that a story, and it just seems a little too convenient that everything is so neatly divisive in Silver's mind.
All right, have we treated this whole situation and these comments fair? I mean, throughout the second half of the season here, when it comes to offensive play calling and Ben and predictability and defenses knowing what the offense is running.
I mean, I guess that's for the listeners to decide. I mean, I
obviously
so.
We haven't because they don't want me commenting on it now. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
my job is to offer an objective opinion on this stuff, and that's what I try to do.
Right. I mean, again, I think we obviously have critiqued Fietner for some of the situational calls, whether that was fourth down against Washington or Baltimore or throwing to Gerald Hawkins. And again, I think the opening script stuff is terrible, and that amount of failure, one touchdown, their last 31 opening drive possessions, falls on everybody. It's not just the coaching staff, but it is also the coaching staff, and they just are bad at coming up with good plans early. They're a team that is better at adjusting once they get a feel of what a defense is doing in stadium. They don't do a good job of having an expectation, a correct expectation of what a defense is going to do before you step into the stadium. So they're better at adjusting than they are creating that plan heading into the game, which is a problem, and it has to get better.
It does have to get better, and it has to get better right away in the first week of the playoffs. They've got to come out and get that monkey off the back.
It's not even just the first drive, but it's 6 straight games without a point on offense or special teams in the first quarter.
Right.
You can't play the Chiefs and not score in the first quarter. You got to score in every single quarter.
And look, in the playoffs, as we talk about, as I've talked about several times, at some point during the playoffs, if you're going to make a run to the Super Bowl, one side of the ball, usually the inferior side of the ball's got to carry the better side at least one game, at least.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And right now, you kind of wonder if the offense. You wonder if the offense can do that for the defense. And look, the defense has not been perfect. The adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat is great, but within the tape, it makes you wonder, was it really that good? Especially when you talk about some of these third downs, right? I think that's the biggest bugaboo when it comes to that. But offensively, man, they can make their offense can make their defense that much better in the playoffs if they just possess the football and move it, control it, and not make Ben step back and throw the football 45 times a game.
Right. I mean, that would require a run game though that goes somewhere, and I've lost all hope that that's gonna.
I have to.
And that to me is a big problem because, again, can you win a Super Bowl 4 games in this case for the Steelers without a run game in all 4 of those games? I mean, you could, I suppose, but
once again, you don't have to run for 160 yards in a game, but we're talking about the success rates here, man. I mean, especially all situations. You got to get that 4 yards in a cloud of dust on first down. If you're running the ball on 2nd and 6, you got to get 3 yards. Okay, if you're running the ball on 3rd and 4th down and needing a yard or 2, you got to get it. And right now, they don't have confidence to even try it. I don't think anymore when they're in those situations.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, and they're right in that assessment. They have no trust in the run game. That's the reason why when they were on that final drive up 4 with about 3 minutes left against the Colts, they were throwing. They were throwing a quick game, but they were still throwing. They did not trust that run game one iota, and rightfully so because it has been a disaster. But that is going to be problematic for a playoff because unless you have the elite of the elite, a quarterback, a Mahomes type of guy, and the Steelers, as much as I love Ben, he is not Patrick Mahomes. It's really hard to string together 4 straight wins.
All right. I mean, if for some unknown, if for some reason, look, it's not unthinkable that this team makes it to the AFC Championship game, right? I mean, is it unthinkable?
No, I wouldn't say that.
All right. If they do, if they do, then it means that they probably had some semblance of run success in a couple of games, right?
I would hope so. I mean, I think you can win a game without the run game. I mean, can you win 4 though? I think it's a lot less likely.
All right. What else do we have left over from? What about the whole TikTok? I know you're huge on TikTok with your dances and all like that. What about the TikTok fallout?
Is there any recent news on that I've tried to not pay as much attention to it? I mean, with a dance with the mask thing?
Right, the maskless, yeah.
Yeah, Tomlin said that the league has contacted the Steelers, did not contact Tomlin personally, doesn't really have any updates on that, but I would expect a penalty of a fine, potentially loss of draft pick. I certainly hope that's not the case. I don't think that's deserving or worthy, but there's probably going to be some sort of punishment headed the Steelers' way at some point.
Here's my thought on it. I hate it. I think it's. I mean, these guys just got off the football field and playing a game together, and they can't go in their own locker room and celebrate, without mask on. I think that's. As a whole, I don't like it, obviously, but the rules are the rules, right? And the problem is there is precedent here with what happened to the Saints, and I think the Saints are appealing that and all, and I don't think we've heard anything from that. But if I'm the Saints, I'm watching this closely, right? I mean, because it'd be one thing if this was the first offense for the Steelers, but it's not. You go back to that Ravens game. They were fined 200 something total or something, and Tomlin got a fine and all like that. So this is a second offense for them, if you will, too. So if you only fine the Steelers heavily and don't take a draft pick away, which I hope they don't, I think they should initially, and then I think an appeal should happen, and then I think both the Saints and the Steelers get their draft picks back is what I think should happen. But I'm raising teetotal hell if I'm the Saints and the Steelers only get a fine and no draft pick taken away, unless there's more to the story that we don't know about maybe prior things that the Saints did, which, I mean, granted, we're on the outside looking in. We can only deal with the information that's out there, right? But quite honestly, look, the way Tomlin framed that during his press conference, they got something.
Or they will get something.
Or they're getting something from all this. They have heard from the league that means something. And do I think draft picks too strong? Yes. Heck, if there should be any draft picks taken away, it should be from the guys like Tennessee and
the Ravens. How do the Ravens not lose a draft pick in all this?
Right.
I mean, I'm pro mask, obviously. Like I'm all for that, but I think there is, a level of too extreme about losing a draft pick over this for the reasons that you mentioned. I want players to be safe. I want them to take precautions and do the smart thing and reduce unnecessary risks and all that. But don't lose a draft pick over that. That just seems a bridge too far. But we'll see. I don't know when we could hear word on that and all that. But we'll let you know when we do.
I would think it would leak pretty quick if they had lost a draft pick. I would think.
Right. Do we know how quickly we found that out from the Saints from the time of their locker room stuff?
It didn't take long, right?
Right. I don't think it was long. I don't know how long.
How
quickly
maybe?
the turnaround. Was it a couple weeks? Okay, so still might be waiting a little bit on that. But
Adam Schefter, I think, was the one of the first ones that had that per usual there. So, look, I think the initial ruling should be they lose a draft pick based on what we know. Now, people say, "Man,"
and you're basing that on the consistency of the league,
right? Right. I'm basing that totally on the precedent that's out there from what I know, from what I've seen. Which I obviously don't. Maybe there's more to it for the Saints of why they got that or what have you. But based on what I have seen and what I know, I think the Steelers should also be docked a 7th round draft pick. I know a lot of people are probably dropping their phones or running off the road right now, but fair is fair. And now, I at the same time, I think both teams should be appealing this, and then I would hope that it's rolled back and they say, look, we were a little bit too strong there. We're going to give you back these picks.
Right. We'll see. We'll let you know. Last thing I think that Tomlin said that you wrote up about late last night, Dave, was Cassius Marsh, outside linebacker, doing well on special teams, had 2 tackles covering kicks and punts, and Tomlin liked the veteran experience that Marsh brings to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Boy,
if only he would have made a play or two. Didn't he miss a tackle on the backfield on one of those snaps there? I would have a little bit more warm and fuzzy feeling about him. Here's the thing. We hope we don't have to see a lot of Cassius Marsh outside of this game against Cleveland.
Well, to be honest, I think I like Marsh better as an edge than an Ola.
I do too, but I still don't mean I don't want to see him play 40 snaps a game.
Right, but that's going to mean someone's going to be the number 3 guy, and they're playing 15 to 20 snaps rotating in.
Right. Overall, I thought he played well. Once again, I just think if he makes that tackle in the backfield, it doubles his debut. I think. Right. And he only played 10, 11 snaps on defense in the game. So if you make that one play and get the tackle for loss in there, to me it just doubles the performance. Now I thought he was fantastic on special teams.
Right. Yeah, he did well. First time up. Playing for Pittsburgh, I thought he did a nice job. And just Tomlin said having that veteran guy, because it is a young, relatively inexperienced outside linebacker group outside of T.J. Watt with Highsmith, a rookie, Ola, who's in his third year now, but hasn't played a ton of football. Jay Elliott has not played a ton of football in recent years, and so to have a veteran guy like Marsh with a good resume is, I think, nice to have late in the season.
And here's the thing. I went through a lot of his pass rushing right after the Steelers got him off the practice squad and all like that. I never got a chance to really go back and take a deep dive into his run defense. I don't think there's a lot there, period, anyway, with him. I think that is one of the biggest questions with him overall, that and how he has won in the past as a pass rusher, right? I mean, he's not a guy probably going to go into bull rush or a lot of hand usage and some rips in there and stuff like that. That's not generally how he wins. He wins with speed around the edge. He wins with twists and stunts and stuff like that with his athleticism. I'm fine with that. You can win that way. But on top of it, there. I don't. You're going to learn a lot more about him, I think, in this game against the Browns. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, he should play significant snaps Sunday against Cleveland. All right, speaking of the game action, let's talk about and review the Colts game and any other things we've kind of come across as we've dove into the all-22. For me, just to go back to the run game, there was one play that really sticks out that I tweeted out yesterday about them running a dart scheme with the backside tackle, Alejandro Villanueva, pulling across, and Benny Snell, for whatever reason, just not following his block and bouncing a play wide when it's supposed to be following your puller inside, and play goes for 1 yard. And that kind of sums up the issues with this run game, where whether it's offensive line, sometimes it's that. In this case, it was a running back just simply not following his block. And that is basic, simple stuff, and just a reminder about how miserable this run game is.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I'm sitting down for that.
I was on a podcast. I was on a Browns podcast, last night, and I was point blank with those guys. I my expectations are very, very low right now, and have been. We've looked at this, and it stems back to the conversation that we've had about this as well too over the last several weeks. You just can't. It'd be one thing if you could just put your finger on just one thing, but it's like 7 things, and not all 7 are happening on every play. There's just that cohesion is just not there in the running game. And now you got there were a few positives in that game against the Colts with Kevin Dotson back, right?
Yes, with Dotson specifically, but I remember some people saying a couple weeks ago, just put Dotson at left guard and everything's going to be great, and it obviously wasn't great against the Colts. So it's not that one guy is going to fix this whole thing. It's not the case.
Right. And Benny didn't do himself. Benny had some nice runs, has had some nice runs, but he didn't do himself any favors, especially when you didn't he get the first short yardage chance in that game or no?
I think he did.
And it didn't go well, did it?
Yeah, I don't know if that was as much on him. Was that the 3rd and 1 where Villanueva got blown up? And
I think so, but sometimes it don't go perfect, and a lot of times I've gotten now where over the years when grading out running backs pre-draft and looking at their tape now, one of the things I try to concentrate a lot more heavily on. Look, any of these guys, these Jonathan Taylors, and who was the other top back this past year? Taylor and
I'm blanking on some of the rookies. DeAndre Swift from Georgia and guys like that.
Right. Who was the other big back? I'm drawing a blank on this year early. Anyway, those big backs, it's one thing when they run through these massive holes and they break one arm tackle 4 yards past the line of scrimmage and they go 78 yards, right? Mm-hmm. The thing you'll see a lot of that people get, and I was guilty of it too, and that's why scouting players is a process over the years. You learn to get better at over the years there. The thing I've started concentrating more on is how do these guys do when they're bottled up? How do they do behind the line of scrimmage when faced with a negative situation? And can they get positive yards out of that kind of situation? And then obviously you try to look for situations where they set up their blocks and get guys to flash and controlling the holes that they hit out of defenders flashing to different sides of blockers and all like that. But one of the things too, and this it goes back to talking about the kid from Florida State, right?
Cam Akers.
Yeah, Cam Akers. That guy did a lot of creating yardage on his own, right? Because he didn't have great blocking there. So I think taking that whole conversation, what I just said back is, does Benny Snell create enough on his own?
No.
And I think we learned that this season, right?
Yeah, and that's not a shock to me. He's a very downhill type of guy. Drive his feet forward, fall forward. He'll create in that sense where he can push a pile forward, but he's not gonna make you miss and turn that negative 5-yard loss into a 5-yard game. But that's not his style, and I think that's the expectation that he was drafted with. He's a low ceiling kind of guy. I mean, he is. I like Benny Snell. I don't think he's a terrible back. I'm not killing him for one misread. But the upside with him is pretty limited.
And some of the things that we were hoping to look, there was some optimism because it kind of changed his body type and all like that, and went through the usual running back transformation that we see Steelers running backs go through and all like that. So and based on him having some explosive plays and limited playing time that he had during his rookie season, and all there was reason to have optimism, I think, about Benny Snell going into this season. But now that we're at the end of the season, where are you with Benny Snell as opposed to where you were with Benny Snell heading into the season?
I mean, my thoughts and feelings on him and his game aren't terribly different. I think in the perspective of how does he fit into an offense, he's obviously not a number one. I think he's a good number two, though. I think in terms of either, back half of a committee or just kind of a more backup type if someone gets hurt or whatever the case is, really quality special teams kind of guy. I love Benny Snell, how he attacks special teams, run down, punts and kicks. I think he's a number two type guy.
Right. He's not a guy that you're going to, not going to be the bell cow, I don't think.
No. And
he gives you some hard yards. I mean, look, he's done some good stuff after the catch and
his
stuff.
pass pro is better than people give him credit for.
Right. But I thought he had a golden opportunity here this past week, and obviously he lost. He lost out on that more so to James Conner there. At least I had the feeling that going into that game against the Colts that he would come out of it the lion's share and the opportunity to show that he could be the guy. But you have those early failures, albeit not all his own, obviously. James Conner got into the game, and you exited the game thinking, well, James Conner's still the top back.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which isn't saying a lot.
Yeah, Snell should play a good bit against the Browns. I know McFarland will hopefully get a helmet and play a good bit, but Snell should also see 10 or so carries, and that'll be another chance for him.
I mean, for God's sakes, the opening script called for Jalen Samuels to be on the field.
All right, because they went empty to start. Yeah. And Snell's obviously not going to be trusted in that kind of role as much as Samuels would be. Other things from the Colts game, I hit the over route to Juju. That is the third time this year they've gotten a touchdown in the red zone on an over route to Juju. Just really good scheme. Broke that one down for Steelers Depot on, I think yesterday it was, and just being able to hold the backside corner, backside safety. Juju runs behind, finds open grass, and it's a good man beater, good zone beater, and it's worked really well this year.
After finally looking at that from several different angles, it looks like cover 6.
Okay, I wasn't even looking at the coverage as much, but yeah, I mean, it was a great job by Ben to pump and hold the safety, and that gave Juju the space but to run behind.
Right. Did you see other instances earlier in the game where that kind of gave them the ability to set that up, or no?
I didn't, but I wasn't in particular looking for it, so I might have missed it if it was there. Did you see something?
I haven't had a chance to go
Okay.
that. I've been trying to spot piece here and there, and get back to there's certain things that when I go through the tape first couple of times, I'm looking for, and then as the week goes on, I try to get more time to see how maybe some plays were set up. So I haven't gone that far yet.
Okay, real quick, this is a short sidebar, then I want to get back to the Colts game. This is from Tom Pelissero, tweeted out just moments ago. The Browns learned overnight that a coach and practice squad player tested positive for COVID-19. Contact tracing is ongoing. I know Harrison Bryant, Andrew Sandejo were placed on the reserve COVID list yesterday. I don't know if that was positive test or close contact, but just something to monitor given this Sunday's matchup.
Who's tweeting that out?
Tom Pelissero.
Okay. Wow.
5 minutes ago. Coach and practice squad player testing positive for COVID. So just heads up, given Steelers know this road all too well, unfortunately. Hopefully it does not create disruption, but just want to throw that out there. It's usually how it goes. Just usually on an earlier podcast, some minor quick note about it. Then the next show we're talking about it for 2 hours.
Right. And hopefully this doesn't interrupt crap, like we've seen all damn season.
Right. Anyway, back to the Colts game. What else did you see from your view of the All-22, Dave, that kind of stuck out to you, good or bad?
Ben made some great damn throws.
Mm-hmm. What was it? The fourth longest air distance on the touchdown to Deontay for the week? For
the week for the NFL.
Right.
That surprised me. There and look, I mean, yeah, and I think we we beat on them pretty good after the Bengals game, but didn't we give them enough props in the show on Monday? They're talking about he made some damn good throws in that game. Now the first half, for whatever reason, he wasn't pushing the football down the field. All right. Mm-hmm. Once he started holding on to that football a little bit more, and specifically in that fourth quarter, I thought, things. I think his ability to push the football down the field led to those safeties rotating back and all,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that led to him being able to open up the shorter game up underneath kind of later in that ball game as well too.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you can work that deep ball and force teams to respect it and play some more too high looks and worry about getting beat vertically, then that naturally opens up things underneath. So I thought they worked the middle of the field better. Thought they worked the short game better because they were able to get the vertical game going in the second half.
I'm trying to think what else stuck out to me overall. Boy, that T.J. Watt. Alex Highsmith, really, and you, I think, dedicated a film room to him as well too there. And we talked a little bit about it. I mean, he's got the moves, I think, man. I think he's got an arsenal there at his disposal. Now he just needs to perfect it and work on getting better against the run.
Yeah, just getting stronger. But yeah, the tools or the moves are all there. I think on that final drive, he showed the cross chop, the inside spin. I think he tried to ghost Webb, and again, he faced a really terrible tackle in Jamarcus Webb. Not very good. Understand the context there, but just, Highsmith on his own has a lot of ways to win. And if you kind of find one or two go-to moves, get a little bit stronger, get a pretty good outside linebacker.
Boy, if he gets in there and him and T.J. Watt become film rats together, T.J. already obviously is, but if Highsmith gets in there and dedicates himself to the learning aspect of it there, I mean, there might be something there because he's got, and I think I put a still of from one of the pass rushes that he had. Man, it was actually, I think it might have been the Tuitt sack, or no, it was the Tuitt pass knockdown play, which that was great by Tuitt to be able to time that and knock that down because I think it was Jack Doyle was underneath there and might have been able to run for another 6 or 7 yards on top of it there. But if you go back and watch the end zone view of that Stephon Tuitt, or really all angles of that play of that pass knockdown there, he does a great job of getting around the edge there. Some nice bend on there. And it even looks like he could have very possibly drew a holding call on that as well, too. Now, look, you got to look at the quality of tackle he's going against, yada, yada. But you're expected to beat those guys, like that. So I think one of my biggest takeaways from him now at this point after that specific game was, okay, we've seen a pretty good arsenal of pass rush moves from him now. And now you just got to work on perfecting that stuff. And he's got the athleticism. He seems to be a smart kid. We saw him make the adjustment, a great adjustment during that game early in the season against the Ravens and learning from his mistakes. Look, you want to stack up his career where he's at right now from Bud Dupree's early days. I mean, it's night and day, right?
Mm-hmm. Much further ahead for sure. But that's expected.
Right.
Dupree was a senior when he came out, but he was a lot more raw, obviously, than Highsmith is.
Yeah, but I mean, but Highsmith though was used in a different kind of front, so he didn't really get a chance in when you and that's one of the things that really I learned, I think, from some of the stuff that you posted early on there about Highsmith right after he was drafted when we started diving down into his film. And by the way, props again to our very own Tom Mead, man. Man, he identified him ahead of that bowl game, right? Ahead of that All-Star game there. So I didn't even know who the kid was. Until our own Tom Mead started talking about it. But fast forward now into some of the early tape work that you did on Highsmith, and you go back specifically to his junior season here. That was the guy that was used as a really defensive tackle, right?
Yeah, he was a base end in a 3-4 defense, and he was out of place. But they did kick him to an edge rusher his last year and got a really good coach in his corner, which certainly helped him and caused that breakout season. But so yeah, you're right on that. But I just think overall, just coming out, Highsmith was a much more advanced and complete player than Dupree was, because Dupree was the crazy athlete but super raw.
Right. So I mean, are you surprised with what you've seen on him from tape so far?
Honestly, no. I mean, I thought coming out he was further along than where a lot of rookie pass rushers are. What he's showing now, I mean, occasionally, some of the ghost stuff, I'm like, where in the world did you learn that from? I'm like, that's pretty advanced stuff. But no, there's nothing out there. The coverage stuff surprised me more. He's not dropping the coverage as much lately as he's become kind of a full-time guy. But some of the stuff going backwards that you really didn't see much on tape because they just didn't do it at Charlotte. Obviously, they let him go forward, get after the quarterback. That was a pleasant surprise, but nothing else has stood out. I mean, it's been positive, but nothing has really shocked me.
And here's the thing, too. Look, I mean, the Clemson, the infamous Clemson game for Highsmith, there was a lot of good on tape there, but I didn't see. Here's the bad thing about the college that he went to and all like that. The tape that we got on him, the limited amount of tape that we had, made it really, really hard to evaluate him, I thought, overall, just some of the angles. He just, didn't get some good all 22 looks on him and all like that. So I had a lot more questions about him than I guess you did overall. And thus, I didn't hate the pick. I'm just saying that I think he's further along right now than what I thought he'd be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe we differ a little bit there, but either way, we both agree that he's playing pretty well and happy with where he's at this stage in his career, especially for, again, rookie that has had to deal with all the additional obstacles of this season.
I think the biggest thing, one of the bigger things as he progresses as a pass rusher is he's got to get dramatically better against the run. We have seen him do some good stuff with stacking and shedding some guys and defenders all like that, but I think a little bit more discipline, and he should naturally get stronger throughout the NFL process anyway, and that will obviously help from his rookie season to his to his second season. So if he gets stronger and plays that run better and continues to make strides as a pass rusher, they might be onto something there.
Yeah, absolutely. Sticking with the defense, Avery Williamson, to me, has been very as advertised since coming over from the Jets. In coverage, there's limitations. Perimeter plays, there's limitations. But as a tackler, very solid, wrap-up, dependable guy. It's hard to tackle Jonathan Taylor in space. He did that on one-on-one opportunity on Sunday, and so just very much an as advertised kind of guy when they dealt for him.
Yeah, we told people not get too overly excited about him, right?
Right, but I mean, the good has still been the good. He's getting off blocks. He's making tackles. I mean, he had, 14 of them against the Colts. I mean, again, in coverage and going backwards, there are issues against the Bengals. He struggled. Some of these corner routes are killing him. But as a tackler, he is really sound, really solid.
I mean, he is what he was,
Right.
with the Jets, You're
Right,
not stopping the presses. I mean, you're not going out of the way to sign him more for more than the minimum, right? Re-sign him. Not that you could anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you have Bush coming back, and assuming you keep Vince and Spillane, I don't know what the role would be there for Williamson. If they bring him back, I wouldn't be mad about it, but I don't know what role he's going to have, and certainly you're not going to pay much for whatever role that may be.
All right, now you broke down Vince Williams this morning here. Now, I think you're a little biased. I like Vince, but I think you're a little bit.
Well,
what did you think about? Long story short, what did you think about Vince's play against the Colts?
Oh, just the fact that he played every single snap is, kudos to him for that. Because, I mean, remember the dude tweeted out like a week ago, like his lungs were on fire, because he had COVID. And I guess a fairly, serious case of it. And he wasn't asymptomatic. So the fact that he goes from that to playing every single snap is really impressive because they kind of needed him to do that because there was no Marcus Allen, UG3's on IR. There was T. Gray Scales was the only actual backup. I mean, Williamson could have played, that role and every down role kind of thing if they needed him to. But for Williams just to be available for that, against a really smart quarterback in Phillip Rivers is impressive in it. So, yeah, I definitely was nerding out a bit. I'm not trying to pretend like Vince that hides his warts, but, Vince being the communicator and getting guys aligned properly, it's just those little things that are important that most people don't notice, don't care about. But if you're going to be a good defense, you better be aligned right, you better communicate well. I think Williams does those two things extremely well.
You didn't answer the question. How did he play against the Colts?
He was fine. I mean, it wasn't an amazing performance or anything like that. I haven't studied that specifically. I mean, I thought it was a fine performance, but again, given the context of playing every single snap against a really smart quarterback in Rivers, I think that intangible stuff kind of shows up, or doesn't show up, but it should be accounted for.
Okay, we got a little bit of breaking news on the Twitter machine, Alex. We have today's awards day. Ben Roethlisberger and Chase Claypool were both honored by the Pittsburgh chapter of Pro Football Writers of America. Ben Roethlisberger wins the Chief Award for 2020, and that is for cooperation with the media. And no surprise here, Chase Claypool wins the Joe Green Great Performance Award, which is obviously awarded to the team's top rookie for the season. No, we just got done talking about about Alex Highsmith, what a great rookie season he's had, and it has been a good rookie season for him. But I obviously Chase Claypool, what he's done. This was a no-brainer for him to win the award.
For sure. A lot of good rookies this year. It's a good problem to have, but Claypool cut above the rest. He needs only 5 receptions to break the Steelers' rookie reception record held by, you guessed it, Troy Edwards in 1999. He had 61, 4 to tie, 5 to break it. And Ben always gives good answers with the media, his weekly, Wednesday media sessions. So in a tough year with Zoom calls and stuff, has certainly been helpful to the Pittsburgh media.
Only the second time he's won the award, though, right?
Right. 2010 and this year. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, it makes you. Who else? Cam Hayward's always good with the media, I think.
Mm-hmm. He won it last year.
And he won it last year. Who else are guys that I think Pouncey? You just don't see him a lot. I don't know how often they request him or whatnot, but I think Pouncey's good. Has been good with the media. Who else do you look forward to player wise when they speak?
I like listening to Villanueva. We don't get to hear from him too often, but he always kind of shares some sort of crazy story or analogy. He talked about like jumping out of airplanes, comparing that to being offensive tackle, or talking about his flip phone that he still has and stuff like that. Hayward's really good. Vince, Hayden. Joe Hayden was the Chief Award winner in 2018, the Castro in 2017, just to go down the list of recent names there. Danny Smith. Really, I'm not going to hurt from Danny Smith at all.
Not talking
really
players.
I know. I just want to talk about Danny Smith for a second. I'm trying to squeeze that in.
I got you.
But yeah, I think Al Villanueva and Vince Williams and Joe Hayden and Minka. I think is always good to hear from him. He's a pretty quiet, reserved kind of guy. A lot of good guys to hear from this team.
I think McDonald's been good. Vance McDonald's been good the times, but. All right, so those are the awards there. I guess coming up soon. I think it's Friday, isn't it? Where the team votes for the MVP?
Is it? Okay, I don't remember.
It's got to be T.J. Watt, right? I mean, there's.
Or is it Ben? Do you say that Ben after you missed him last year?
I don't know.
I know he doesn't win it too often because everyone knows he's always the most valuable player, but probably T.J.
Man, I don't see how TJ doesn't get it. I mean, look, obviously you can make great arguments for Ben. I mean, Ben should have won it last year, right?
Yeah.
You know, sure. I mean, you every year you could probably say the quarterback deserves the award. I mean, right. is the obvious choice there. But anyway, that I think that happens on Friday. I think we'll learn that on Friday.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, Dave, kind of jump back into the Colts game, our tape review. I know we've covered a decent amount from this game already. Any other things, big or small, that stick out to you?
Not off the top of my head. What do you have?
Yeah, I'm just trying to go through the last of my notes here. Very, very, very small thing, and I think I know why this is the case. But when the Steelers are under center and they do have linemen in 3-point stances, Villanueva is not in a 3-point stance still. He still is in a kind of staggered 2-point stance, and it's probably just because he's so tall and long. He doesn't want to put his hand in the dirt and trying to pop up from that. But that is one note that I kind of realized because they've been in 3-point stances more the last 2 weeks.
All right. Anything stick out spectacular about the passing game? Tale of two halves. Not that we already mentioned there.
Yeah,
they're running a lot of the same stuff.
Right. Yeah. Nothing too different. It was just the execution of it. Again, the touchdown to Ebron was nicely drawn up, a little 5-yard out. Basically, a screenplay almost. Ebron. I mean, everyone else is blocking to that side. I think Juju and whoever the other receiver was there, Claypool or what was it, Claypool? Okay, gotcha. And so that is designed to go to Ebron the whole way. So a nice kind of Y out kind of route. The touchdown to Juju, that over route we discussed earlier in the show was really well designed and kind of been a go-to red zone play for them this year. So I noticed that. Vance McDonald was on the kick return team. He was terrible. The injuries are piling up, kind of forcing McDonald to play there. That's a very small thing to talk about. And that's basically, I think, the bulk of what I have right now.
Thought Tuitt was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tuitt's gotten some criticism the last couple of weeks for not making too many plays. I thought even against the Bengals, he was winning one-on-ones. He was getting pressure that just wasn't showing up in the box score.
Tyson Alualu doing Tyson Alualu things.
Yep, no surprise there. It's
amazing. I didn't see it coming. When they re-signed him in 2019 was it? I was okay with the re-signing. I just thought you maybe get one more year out of him and then dump him. Man, I'm at the part right now where you got to try to find a way to get that guy back at least for one more year, maybe. And
what will it cost though?
Yeah, I mean,
can you pay that guy the minimum? He's certainly playing better than a minimum type player.
It's obvious. You got so many different ways that you got to go with the money here. You can't re-sign them all, right?
Right, but that's one guy I want to bring back because if you don't, then who are you going to have to replace him in-house? I mean, Carlos Davis, I guess.
You just don't know enough about Carlos Davis yet. Right. I mean, he might develop, but you're not going to, you're going to have to go through a lot of stuff before you get to that point. So some growing pains with him and all,
Yeah, I'm all for bringing Alualu back. All right, that's basically all I had here for the Colts game as of now. Do you want to move on here? Anything else to talk about today?
Ben Roethlisberger will speak to the media post-practice around 2 p.m. Eastern time, so we'll be recapping that for everybody. I'm sure Going to be some more offensive coordinator questions asked of him, I'm pretty sure, and his relationship with Mason Rudolph. I would be interested to see if he's asked about that, and obviously he'll be asked to talk about the chief winning the chief award and all like that on top of it. So we'll have that all updated.
Just to touch on that point, Michael Silver's report was that, Ben's not going to help Mason. I think you put it well that, they're not BFFs. They're not, hanging out all the time. But this idea that Ben refuses to help other guys or is that selfish of a guy just is not accurate. And I don't know where Silver's getting this from. For whatever it's worth, you watch him at training camp. Again, they're not BFFs, but they interact. I mean, you see Ben talk with Mason, after plays or, individual type stuff. There's a relationship there. To what extent, I don't know, obviously, but the way Silver paints it is just
it's frigid. Yeah, I mean, he really paints it to be, the two, just in a brief quote, it's like the two can't stand to be in a room. You just view it as being a very frigid relationship. But I mean, you go back to, there's clips from last season, Ben on the sideline with his arm bundled up and patting Mason on top of the helmet and
talking after drives and going over stuff.
Right. I mean, yeah, and I did try to frame it that way. Look, they probably maybe they don't exchange Christmas cards, but that's okay, guys on team, everybody on a team and in the same meeting room don't necessarily have to be BFFs together. Look, that they do have years apart. Is there maybe still just a little bit of animosity of some sort of inkling there from the Steelers drafting Mason and Ben taking offense to that and Ben not necessarily hating Mason, but the idea, maybe, I don't know, but to think that one wouldn't help the other prepare for a Week 17 game, I find it hard to believe.
Yeah, because in practical terms, what is Silver implying? That Ben just doesn't talk to Mason, doesn't help him, Mason goes to him for help, and Ben blows him off? Do you really think that's what's happening? Is that what Silver really believes occurs? Come on, that's just ludicrous.
And once again, why? Okay, if you want to give all, and this goes back to Silver, I've never been a fan of his, by the way. Are
you blocked by him?
Huh?
Are you blocked by him?
I don't know. No, I'm not.
Because I got the block a while back.
Yeah, you mentioned one thing to him, and he's like me. He'll block you in a heartbeat.
he yelled at somebody because they had only 9 followers. He was like, "Oh, you and your followers." I was like, "Dude, what are you doing? To follower shame somebody?" And he blocked me for that.
Right.
So real piece of work over there.
Yeah, I think he's probably mania bipolar too. But anyway, I just with his football analysis, I'm not a fan on him. And once again, it goes back to what I said earlier in the show, Alex. It just goes to show how people frame things. Michael Silver come out and give you a report that goes with your narrative, with somebody's narrative about the OC and all like that. And Juju said this and didn't even provide a full context of what was said. And everybody wants to run with that and make, people want to send screenshots of it to me and all like that. On the flip side, the same guy says, the two quarterbacks got issues with each other, and Ben's not going to help Mason prepare for the Browns game. Hack. It just goes right. I mean,
sure.
I'm not the only one that sees this, right?
No, I get you. Your level of credibility or how much you like this reporter depends on what he's saying. If you like what he says, then you like the reporter. If you don't like what he says, then you don't like the reporter. But I really kind of discount it all.
Aren't we real careful in this day and age, you and I now? I mean, this show's obviously progressed over the years since day one. That we've had it. You and I try to make sure we contextualize everything. And
sure.
I'm talking about sacks to parsing people's words. And the good thing about what we do now and the kind of the access, at least that the limited access that we've been given from the team, is we get the videos, we get the transcripts, so we can parse all this stuff. And some of this stuff we can't parse, and people ask us to comment on it, and until we can fully parse. We owe it to our listeners not to hot take stuff based on so and so said, right? And I get a lot more flack than I think you do of having opinion on stuff when it's totally parsed out, and especially if it goes against the mass. Do you consider me contrarian or no?
No, I don't. I mean, I think you're honest and blunt, and sometimes that is obviously the contrarian
Too
take.
blunt.
I don't think it really is.
Too blunt that is viewed as contrarian.
No, I mean, I don't know how to classify it. Obviously, you're not in the fire Randy over every single thing camp, and if you're not in that camp, you get a lot of blowback, regardless whether it's you or me or anyone else.
Okay, but you get a lot less of it than I do.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Maybe that is.
Why do you reckon that is?
I don't know. I maybe that is the bluntness of it. I couldn't really tell you exactly for sure. But
is it because I'm more in people's? Is it just my personality, the way I deliver things? You think?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think maybe our approaches are a little bit different in how we convey that.
In other words, I'm the most likely to get punched in the face, right?
I would never.
I don't have an issue with that at all. I don't have an issue with that at all.
All right, fair enough. But yes, I mean, again,
my wife just stuck her head in here and says I'm an ass. So, all right.
Secret to marriage, long, healthy, happy marriage. But yeah, some of this stuff again, I've been critical of Fichtner, but like some of the stuff they blame the guy for, T.J. Watt didn't recover that fumble. It's Randy's fault because he wanted to try to score because the offense wasn't, and Benny Snell misses the read, and so that's Fichtner's fault. It's just like you can't be the boy who cried wolf and have every single thing blamed on Fichtner, because whenever there are times where it's legitimately on Fichtner, you just sound like the boy who cried wolf, and it gets a little stale, especially when it happened with Bruce Arians and Ken Whisenhunt and Todd Haley and Randy Fichtner and whoever the next OC is going to be. Like every single OC sucks. Is that really what you're saying?
And then a year and a half later, I wish we didn't fire Todd Haley.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure wish we had, Todd Haley. Look, I've been critical of play calls. I think you can go through every game around the NFL if you do it right and say, oh man, there's about 4 calls that I kind of question. What were you thinking there? But as far as play design and all, look, if you want to criticize the openings and execution versus what's being called. Look, do you really want them to come out and run the football twice to open a drive, Alex?
No, not with
to open a game.
I don't want to run twice in a game, period. But yeah, the run game sucks. You can't run the football.
All right, and what happens if you have one drop on an opening game? Look, I'm not saying that that's the only reason they're having problems, okay? Mm-hmm. But it needs to have. Sure, you need the biggest indictment I think of all is the way this team's starting games. First 2-3 drives. It seems to take them until halftime to get things sorted out.
Right, and that is an issue of players for sure, 100% in the Colts game, as you mentioned.
It's all the way around.
But it is also on coaching, because Fichtner's got to have a better plan. He's got to come up with some better way. He is too much. We'll figure it out once we've seen him for 2 or 3 drives, and this is their approach, and he's not been able to figure out that plan to start a game, and that's problematic.
All right, where else should we go here?
Well, I think we can go to some reader emails and close out today's show, unless there was another topic that you wanted to discuss.
Any thoughts on Dwayne Haskins? Honest thoughts on Dwayne Haskins?
Don't want him in Pittsburgh. I'm sure he'll be connected. I've already seen some of the ESPN articles connecting him to Pittsburgh. I think there's a lot of growing up he has to do. The talent hasn't really materialized. Don't really have any interest, but same with any of the other quarterbacks who've been linked to Pittsburgh over the last year.
All right, now that he's cleared waivers.
Doesn't change my answer.
Doesn't change your answer. Okay. All right.
Does it yours?
No, not at all. I mean, let somebody else babysit that kid, man.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother show about his tape and all, but I don't want to get into that. I wasn't overly impressed with it. I mean, he's got the arm strength and all. He does some things very well. First round grade. Well, I don't know. I mean, there's quarterbacks that'll continue to be overdrafted just because it's a quarterback-driven league, right?
Absolutely.
Any thoughts on the whole Sam Darnold thing?
What is even that he could get traded to Pittsburgh? Is that the conversation?
Yeah, it's back in there on ESPN Insider that experts or insider. I don't know how they framed it, but the Steelers will look to add him.
How are you going to afford it? Someone explain that to me.
I wrote a whole article about that. It wasn't good enough. I guess if you cut Ben.
I guess, yeah. I mean, if you're playing Madden, turn the salary cap off. I suppose you could afford Darnold,
You know,
it's not going to happen.
Right. Then you got the whole 5th-year option that you automatically got to turn around and pick up on him and all like that too. With you better be damn sure about him. You know.
And then when's he going to play? If Ben's here for another year, at least another year, maybe 2, then by the time Ben's gone, Darnold's contract is up too. Either you're paying that guy out the nose to be your quarterback with limited tape, or you're letting them walk and you lost. No, that's even a word. I'd rather have Haskins than Darnold in the sense of what it takes to acquire him. All right, Dave, let's get to some read emails and close out today's show.
All right, I'm worn out by this show for some reason. Let's see here if I can find the email machine. I done lost my tab here. Where is it? There it is.
Hey, you don't get the days off on Wednesday like Ben does.
Nope. And I'm not going to be inactive for the game coming up here. Let's see. Just an idea. This is from Chris Lookhart. I realize that we can't sit everybody we want to because there's only 5 inactive spots. But what if we pick the 5 that we want to sit, and then basically either use a heavy rotation, then we can make the backups make the backup starters, and then the starters could be backups. So in essence, you do have your starters active, but they essentially sit unless someone gets injured? ? Just an idea I'm having at 4 a.m. Haha. Chris, look, you're going to have people in. I thought Mike Tomlin, through a roundabout way, if you read and parse out everything that he said during the press conference, I thought he did a good job talking about, look, this isn't a preseason game. This isn't a 90-man roster. You still got to dress, and it could be as much, as 5 is the minimum inactive. We expect them to come game time to have 7 inactives because I would really think that it would take the opportunity to elevate 2 players from the practice squad there. But you got to be kind of judicious, and you got to be fair to the other guys on your roster as well too. Can you make Henry Mondeau play? Is it fair to the rest of the team to make Henry Mondeau play 60 snaps in a game?
Right, and that's something Tomlin talked about. You have to be considerate of the guys you are giving snaps to, and is that going to wear them out or put them in a situation they're not equipped to do? So obviously you want to try to, sit out some of your key guys, and you're right, some guys may dress but play very little or not play at all. But as Tomlin said, you have to really weigh, the guys you are giving snaps to and the health of the group that you're working with.
Right. And Chris, look, we agree with you. You pick your 5 or your 7, like Alex and I did at the top of the show, going through the names that most likely sit. And those are guys that, at least if they're on the inactive list, there's no way whatsoever you can put them in the game. So there's no, whether you change course or have a change of heart and say, you know what, I just all of a sudden want, there's no temptation to put them in the game is what I'm saying at that point. And sure, you're right, Chris. I mean, you definitely go that way. But on the flip side, the guys that I dress, there's probably going to be 2 or 3 of those guys that might not play at all. But the other guys, I think you would put them in with the groups that you would normally put them into. I don't think you want to handicap putting in certain guys with other certain guys that haven't had some reps together on top of it there, if that makes sense.
Right. No, I agree. The other thing to consider as we look towards the playoffs is obviously you can't control everything, and some of this stuff is out of your control, pandemic related, but don't go anywhere. Don't go to the grocery store. Stay in your house and go to work for this playoff push, because obviously you don't want a COVID situation to pop up, even for a close contact type of deal, right before a playoff game. Man,
you ain't lying. I lock the doors, man.
Yeah, just lock it down.
Yeah, they if they need any notes on how to be reclusive, they can contact you and I, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com.
The expert.
We will let you know how to shut yourself off from the outside world. This one from Jim Bendis, Big Ben's deep passing numbers. I was curious to hear if during your look through at Big Ben's passing numbers, you saw any large gaps by receiver over his career. I can imagine all the drops by, say, Sammy Coates could really skew the deep throw numbers some years. On the other hand, outside of the Wi-Fi issues in his last year, AB was able to make spectacular grabs consistently. Also, when was the last time Ben threw a fourth quarter 50-yard or so Hail Mary play to try to win the game? For some reason, I can't remember Ben ever throwing one, successful or not.
I'm sure Ben has thrown Hail Marys before. When that last was, I'm not sure, though. Obviously, it was not Sunday against the Colts, even though there was a chance. The Colts were playing every man in the end zone, so they threw short. I don't know the answer to that.
As far as the question about I guess catchable balls is what he's saying on the deep balls. I don't have those numbers in front of me. I think I can get them. I don't know how far back I can get them, but I mean, do we remember a lot of drops on deep balls over here? I mean, sure, Sammy and Limas. I mean, Limas one against the Bengals that I just will never be able to get out of my head.
In the end zone?
In the end zone, yeah. I mean, there are some. It's all relative though across the board with quarterbacks. So right. I mean, it has had a higher percentage of drops on deep balls throughout his career. Would you say or no?
I would probably say no, considering all the plays AB made and probably shouldn't have been caught that were caught. But I have no idea. I mean, that number, I don't have that data. I don't know where you would acquire that data from, so I couldn't really tell you.
Right. I don't remember it to be that way, and that's not a great answer, I guess. Yeah. So, Jim, maybe during the offseason we'll look into that. I've got a lot of his stuff charted, during the offseason. I try to pick up a handful of those older games and try to chart those, especially air distances and stuff like that. So maybe that's something I'll continue to look into, Jim, moving forward. I appreciate the question there on that. Let's see. What else do we have here? Why is nobody talking? This one's from Joe Hennison. Why is nobody talking about trying to win this game against Cleveland? If we win and Buffalo loses, we have the number 2 seed. We'll play the number 7 seed. And if we win, we'll host another playoff game. Everyone is looking at this game like it doesn't matter if we win or lose, since we can't get the one bye. What am I missing here? Just the risk is not worth the reward, Joe, plain and simple.
Yeah, that's the phrase I would use. The risk is not worth the reward. There is something to play for sure, but you'd rather sit back and give these guys a very much needed rest heading into the postseason. Obviously, if this was like last year and the 1 and 2 seed got bye weeks and you're playing for the 2 seed, that means a lot, clearly. But not the case this year, so that matters less than giving those guys a rest.
You have got to play with trying to win your first. What sets you up better to win your first playoff game? Plain and simple. You cannot look past if this, if that. You've got to look, especially with this team's history in the first round of play, recent history, getting bounced by the Jags and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Baltimore 1 year in there. You got to play to what sets you up to be in the best health, the best position to win one game and go from there. I get what you're trying to say, but it's not worth putting Ben in there and risking injuring some of these guys just for the what if they win their first playoff game and make it to the next round kind of thing.
Yeah, you can't focus on, well, if we get this seed, maybe we'll play this team. Too much uncertainty, too much out of your control. Focus on the things you can control. That's getting your guys rest, getting your guys properly prepared for the playoffs, which is going to be a slog. 3 games, 4 games to do it. Not going to be easy, so get those guys some rest.
This one's from Chris Brink. Who is the most likely matchup if we lose against Cleveland and everyone else wins out? Well, I think it's Cleveland, right? I think.
Is it the Browns?
I think the Browns is the highest probability with the Steelers with the Steelers as potentially the 3 seed.
Okay. Yeah, if they lose, it'll be the 3. So that would be who would be the 6 seed. Actually, if they lose, are they the 3? Or if they lose and Buffalo loses, are they the 2?
Wait a minute here. I think that the highest probability matchups is them playing the Browns in some form or fashion.
Okay.
And then it would be, hold on a minute here, and I'll scroll through something I've retweeted. There's a lot of math involved.
Okay. I know somebody had said to look at the ESPN playoff thing, and I've looked at that before. I just haven't pulled it up for the show.
Let's see here. If Cleveland beats Pittsburgh, there's more chances. Yeah, that because the Steelers would be the 3, and people seem to like the probability more of the Browns being the 6th seed. More so, there's more chances of that happening with the Steelers being the 3 seed and the Browns being the 6th seed than there is Baltimore. Now, Baltimore's right there in the second most, I think, probability there.
Okay, and I think if the Steelers and Bills lose, the Bills still are the 2 seed because they'd both be 12-4, and Buffalo would have tiebreaker.
I'm trying to see if there was something that I retweeted here. I thought I saw something that the Browns were percentage-wise the highest probability. But anyway, that's the quick and dirty answer to that one there. Let's go to Jeff Berg. Wow, what a painful 12-3 season so far. I never thought I'd kind of hear it categorized that way. What a painful 12-3 season. The 3-game losing skid and inexplicable lack of running game. I'm gladly eating crow as I didn't see us winning another game this year. I'm wondering if it is wise not to try to beat the Browns by playing our stars so we don't end up playing the Ravens. Once again, I don't see the logic in that, Jeff. It's been an age-old adage that it's just really difficult to beat the same team 3 times. Add to that, we barely beat them both times we played them. Those games seeing them without most of their key players. What a conundrum. The Ravens are a team on the rise. It would pose a bigger threat perhaps than the Dolphins. What do y'all think? I think you do everything you do to put yourself in a health-wise and position-wise to win whoever you play in the first round of playoffs and not get caught up of if they win this, because you can't control what the other teams do anyway. So right. That's where I am on that.
Yeah, I'm with you, Dave.
All right, so within that, we'll end the show there. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex Kozora at Alex_Kozora. You can follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button upper right navigational bar. And also, if you would like an ad-free version of the site, please go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free version for $25. You can have an ad-free version of the site for 1 year. A lot of people are taking us up on that as well there. So within that, Alex and I will be back on Friday to preview the rest of this game against the Browns and then go from there. So in the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.